Hey, what's up, good people? My name is William Alderman, just checking in with you guys with another video. Obviously, you guys are here to try to figure out if working out negatively affects your shooting. So, with all that being said, I guess we're gonna figure it out because we're gonna shoot 5 rounds of Vegas and we're actually gonna have a good little push-pull day. So let's see how it turns out for me. But you know what? Might as well flex for the boys. So you want recording? You know, gotta show them where that back is at. 4, 6, got 2. No spot, 3 sounds good. Oh, what is up, good people? So yes, we did just finish lifting. If you can't tell, probably not, it's kind of dark in here, you probably can't see the sweat, but beyond the point, I did do only upper body day. With that being said, so I did my bench press, didn't have a high rep count, wanted to go heavy there, simply because I wanted to try to fatigue the upper body as much as I can so that I make this as miserable as possible or as hard as possible. Those that also know me, I don't usually do just an upper body day of pushing, pulling. I usually will split my lower body and upper body and do 2 heavy days and then do an accessory day at the end of the week. But that's all later on thought when we actually start getting into the weeds of all this. But wanted to talk about the benefits of actual training and the fact that you can still shoot on the days that you train. So with all that being said, hopefully this is a scientific experiment that goes in my favor in regards to what I like to argue for. So here we go. First arrow on the day. Oh, and also just for a fun fact for those that are gonna ask how far are you shooting, this is only 17 yards, 16, 17 yards, just depending on how far I push it back into that corner, from corner to corner of my house into my garage. So yes, it's not a full 20, but it's as close as I can get, working within the time frames or constraints that I'm working in. All right, so that's round 1. Going into round 2. That's high. All right, that's 2. All right, so that's 2 ends down. And I'm gonna take a little pit stop and kind of go into why I think that training, first and foremost, is just super vital when it comes down to just everyday life, but also inside of archery. So I think, 1, when you train, you get stronger. Nobody's ever complained about being stronger. And then also, nothing in life has ever been harder because you were stronger. Now, one little caveat I do want to make very, very clear is when I talk about being stronger, a lot of times people will correlate that to building on muscle and being like, oh, well, I got to put on a crap ton of muscle to get strong. That's not the truth. That's not what I am actually trying to champion when we talk about getting stronger. What I'm championing and when I talk about fitness in this general sense is talking about actually getting stronger in relationship to the muscle mass that you actually have. I'm not saying we need to all turn into bodybuilders like my boy Daryl and think that, hey, I need to be the guy that looks stage ready at all times. What I am simply saying is we need to train our bodies so that our sport isn't our only form of fitness. So for example, if a guy wanted to play football and he wanted to be great at football, usually to meet the demands of the sport, you need to make your practice a higher demand than what your actual sport is going to demand when you get on this field, so that when it comes down to the actual competition, you're ready for it. Now that goes for hunting or in competition archery, because a lot of times we get into those big buck moments or the big competition, the final shootout, and then we don't know how to calm ourselves down. There's plenty of research out there that will back the idea of when you're in shape, it's easier to regulate your heart rate. Now that's a lot of detail to go into the minutia of it all, but I'm gonna shoot my third round and then I'll get into a little bit more detail as we continue. Where do I want to hit? Right in the middle. High, but dead middle. Beautiful. I think that's low. But that's the end of round of 2, 3. End of round 3. So I'm gonna change the angle and then I'll continue to talk. All right, so new camera angle. Hopefully that's all right. So that's the end of round 3 going into round 4, or N4. Goodness gracious, it's like I'm boxing or something. So we're going into N4, and one thing I want to pause and talk about is one thing that's going on right now, especially inside of archery, I think is going unseen. But at least for me, when I think about the top guys, especially when I look at a Matthias Fullerton as well as a Bodie Turner, you look at their bodies and listen to some of them talk about what they're doing. At least Matthias, if you haven't heard the podcast with him, with the guy from Easton, and talking about how he actually goes about his fitness, as well as Levi Morgan, even though he will talk about not building and putting on a bunch of muscle. But even a Bodie, when growing up, it was clear he had just his body composition has changed. It's clear that he's doing something in the weight room. And I think about what they're doing in the sport of archery and how they are separating themselves from the masses, and how everybody is being like, yo, this bar that's being set for the everyday person is now getting astronomically high. I think that's because you're taking now athletic approaches and then applying it into a sport that also just demands a high level of focus. And if you can combine the two and find a nice sweet spot of fitness and athlete as well as mental focus, which in a lot of other sports, I don't think, like even like a football sport, maybe I'm knocking on wood trying to give myself some kudos, but even a football athlete has to be very bright and wise. Now, the way that they apply their wisdom on the field of sport is a lot different. This is a lot more calm, cool, and collected, and emotions can kind of bite you in the butt. But at the end of the day, when it comes down to archery and you think about building an actual fitness base, look at those guys. Don't listen to me, listen to the pros that are killing it. It's clear that it's helping them out. So why wouldn't we, in the everyday person and those that are pursuing, just trying to be a little bit better every day, get strong? I just think it's crazy to not. All right, round 4. You know, one thing, especially when I'm talking to the camera, is always funny. I have to like remind myself all the time, where do I want to hit, when do I want to hit? And it's cool because last year that was a big thing in regards to my competition, trying to figure out something to say to myself when I feel like I'm getting a little distracted in competition, but being able to use it while talking to a camera, pretty cool. Talking too much. That was high. Might have got a 9 right there. Oh my gosh. Now I'm just losing focus. Didn't actually do what I was supposed to do, like lock it in. All right, so going into N5, fourth end, I dropped a 9. That is wild. Did not feel like that was about to happen. But then when I was holding anchor, I stopped talking to myself and I just pulled the trigger. I punched it. But beyond the point, when we break down what we've done today, one, we shot right after lifting. And I think it's super important. In these days, people have asked me before, my guy over at Triple R Woods YouTube channel, if you haven't checked him out, go check him out. Does a whole lot of gear reviews and stuff like that. But I was on a podcast with him and he said, what do you do on your fitness days? Do you still shoot? And I said, yes, but I will just lower my arrow count. This is an example of what I mean by being able to lower my arrow count. I think with the Joel Turners out there, the Shot IQ approach, he talks about really raising the level of determination. This is exactly, in some ways, what he's talking about. When things aren't going your way, when your body doesn't feel like it doesn't want to do it, it's all about your mental approach and you being able to lock it in and say, I'm going to do it anyways. Because at the end of the day, how fatigued are your muscles really? Now, especially if you actually train your body. Now, if you go in for the first time and you work out, yes, your body's gonna feel like crap and you're not gonna be able to lift your arms. You're gonna, oh, I don't feel like wiping my butt. Like, then yes, of course. But if you have trained to a level of you actually being in shape, your training inside the weight room will affect your shooting, but just lower the arrow count, but still practice the idea of being locked into every single shot, which I just failed at, but now I get to choose on these last 3 shots on the 5th end, I get to choose right now to say, I am going to hit the middle every single time, and just let that not be a negotiable. Even when I feel jittery, even when I feel like my pin's moving on that third arrow, it's just deciding that I'm gonna make a good shot. I think so many times we wait for the circumstances to just line up, just in our own lives or whatever, and it's like, oh, well, when the time is right, I'm gonna do it. No, like, when the clock goes on, it's time to go. When you wake up, it's time to go. So, like, not to get all like extra, but I think it's just super important for us to remember those simple facts, like the clock is not gonna wait for you and you have to take a shot no matter how you feel. So you have to go in and make that mental decision. So we're gonna full send this thing. Let's go check this out. So for the debrief, few things. When it comes down to shooting and fitness, do it all on the same day. It's totally fine. I think it's important because just like I said earlier, if your sport is your fitness, you are leaving chips on the table when it comes down to the competition. Secondly, I'm not the only one saying it. There are plenty of pro level guys doing it. They might not be promoting it as much because it might be their little like card in the hole, but at the end of the day, I don't even know what card in the hole means, but at the end of the day, I just want people to, one, take care of their bodies because I think, especially in America, we're just not doing that. I think it's super important to understand that our lives, our bodies are in our own hands. No matter what we want to tell ourselves, it's up to us to take care of it. And those that are Christians, it's your temple, and God lives in it, so take care of it. And lastly, you can still execute a good freaking shot even if you're tired, even if you don't feel like shooting. It's just a matter of fact of you making a mental decision to do so. So are you gonna make that mental decision? Up to you. If you don't wanna keep on leveling up, then that's fine. Then shoot your bow and look at me and be like, you're a douchebag. And I get it. I could very easily come off that way. I just think taking care of your body, getting strong, maybe not building a bunch of muscle. Muscle will come as a byproduct, but not exactly the way some people are thinking about it. Be great, be better, and take care of your bodies. William Alderman is out. I'm gonna shoot one more end. I got enough time. And that was left. And that's a wrap, folks.